I am a licensed professional mortgage broker. Today, we are going to be talking about the actual cost, 4,000 square foot Barndominium site work. The rough plumbing, we came to the end of this. Guess how much? Hey everybody, this is Megan Yandell. I am the senior mortgage broker at Excel Mortgage, and today we are going to be talking about the actual cost of a build here in the state of Georgia, just about a 4,000 square foot Barndominium. So excited to share this with you and actual budget numbers to help you budget your dream Barndo. So just to clarify, I am a licensed professional mortgage broker that has been in business for over 20 years, and these are actual numbers that we're going to discuss today that are believable. Some things that I see online are, makes me think a little bit like, is that really accurate? Or is that maybe a do-it-yourselfer because sometimes the numbers don't really look that reasonable? Today, we're going to talk about actuals on a project that we have going on currently in the state of Georgia. The details about this incredible Barndo build here in Georgia are 3,950 square feet of living space, 3-bedroom, 3.5 bath. We have a separate in-law suite with a full bath, a gorgeous courtyard entry, vaulted great room, butler's pantry, everything you can imagine. This is really one for the books. So what I would like to do in this video is go over 8 of the general categories that a basic budget is going to be broken down into. So the first one is going to be site work. Things like that include clearing trees, grading the land, and foundation work is going to be after that. So hang tight with me until we get into the nitty-gritty of some of those details. The first item, site work, $15,000. This was built on an 8-acre property. So there was a lot of clearing, a lot of grading that needed to be done. So that's a pretty substantial line item, $15,000 for that. In addition to that, we had some excavation. They have some underground area with this build, not the entire build, but some of it. So a little bit of excavation. That total is $6,250. We have dirt importing and exporting, so moving the dirt around. Some projects can actually need dirt to level an area on the property. Some properties have excess dirt that they can actually sell, make a little bit of money that they can contribute back into the budget, and actually let someone else benefit from excess dirt that they don't need from the property. In addition to that, there was some rough grading. And there's typically 2 different contexts or 2 different categories for grading: rough grading and then finish grading. Rough grading is exactly what it sounds like: bulldozer work, messy, big chunks, big volume of dirt. That line item for rough is $7,500. The finish grading, you think about golf courses, everything's smooth, you don't have extra rocks in there, some raking, some hand raking, that totals at $3,500. So continuing on with some additional line items for site work category is things like equipment rental. If you're working with a builder that might not have every piece of equipment that's needed to get the site perfect for your build, as far as equipment rental, your builder might not have access to all of the tools and equipment that they need to complete your project. So they might have a line item for equipment rental. This project actually is spending $7,750 on whatever type of equipment that could be. It could be a bulldozer, it could be a skid steer, it could be a Kubota, anything that is available for rent. There could be a cost associated with that for just one day, a couple of hours, or it could be a period of time longer than that, maybe a week or 2. In addition to that, we just have 2 more line items in this category. One is the sewer or the septic system. This project is actually going to be on septic. So that's a pretty significant line item. It's between $8,500 and $14,500. I think they ended up landing right in the middle, right around $12,000 for this one, if memory serves. So that was an entire septic system. There's also a perk test that you would need to do that would be an additional cost to that would be done prior to this actual septic work being completed, so everyone knows what to do and where to actually place the septic system. And the final item is either a water cost to access the utilities for water. This was actually going to be a project that is on a well. Wells get a little bit tricky because you have to drill, and if you hit water, fantastic, you're in business. If you don't, the cost could exceed what the initial estimate is because you have to drill down deeper. So depending on the cost of that, this could vary. We just have $500 on for that line item, which can be quite reasonable depending on where you live. So that adds up pretty quickly. The total for the site work category come out to $64,000. Now, don't freak out yet. We want to talk about OPM, other people's money. You didn't have to pay for this out of pocket. This client is using financing to do this. One of the biggest benefits of using financing, even if you have the cash, even if you have the liquid assets that you can afford this, there are a lot of benefits with working with a lender. A lender offers a lot of protections through them because they utilize a project management company that's going to oversee this entire project from start to finish. You go to closing, everybody signs off on everything. Let's say you do that on a Tuesday. You can break ground the next morning, Wednesday morning. Show up on the site with your cup of coffee. The builder's there, the equipment's there, you break ground. You're using other people's money. And what comes along with that is the lender wants to know that that job is being done properly, it's being inspected, the building is up to code, and it's going to get done on time, if not ahead of schedule, if you're lucky, and to the penny. What that builder submitted on their contract, it's not going to exceed that. That is a huge benefit. I have clients come to me that want to pay cash for everything and they just want my help with some guidance. We end up getting financing for them and they pay it off 100% once they move into their brand new home. So keep that in mind. So the next section we have is foundation work. This can vary on different projects depending on the project site. If it's nice and flat, that's going to be one type of option for foundation. If it's on a steep slope, you could need some extra work. So work very, very closely with your builder to understand what's involved and what it's going to cost. This specific project, as a reminder, is just shy of 4,000 square feet total, so 3,950 square feet. They are going with a 4-inch slab. Now, a slab is typically, it's considered one basic foundation for the entire building. You have different options. This one, we're going to focus on the slab. You can have different PSI, pressure per square inch, measurements for that to increase the strength with additional adding fiber to concrete, things like that. Or you can have different slump measurements. If you took a pile of concrete, would it stay firm into a shape, or would it be really, really runny and watery and be, very, very loose? There are all of these different parameters, and that has to be specified. You can also have your concrete tested and have testing containers, which is a very, very smart way to make sure that your builder is delivering exactly what you specified in the contract. We can get into that a little bit more in another video if you're interested. But the line item for this, for the footings and the foundation work as a slab concrete foundation, came to a total of $57,725. So the total square footage for this foundation that we've been speaking about is 3,950 square feet, just shy of 4,000 square feet total. So this next category is called rough structure. Your builder might call it something different, but it's basically the framing category. So typically barndos are, if they're true to form, steel structures, clear span steel structures. Typically what that means is you have the structure in the exterior of the building, just the walls and the roof. You need no interior support at all. That's why barndos are so popular, because it's open concept. You can put anything you want inside of them. So focusing on the numbers, we have some woodwork. There's going to be some interior framing for bathroom build outs, private bedroom build outs, things like that. So that's going to be included in the rough structure. As far as the interior lumber cost, that line item is $16,000. As far as carpentry for the rough, you have to erect the building, you have to get the lumber framed out for the interior walls. So the rough carpentry and the labor associated with that has a cost associated of $7,500. The structural steel, this is where you're going to see a chunk of money. $115,000. It's a lot, sounds like a lot. However, that is the entire structure of your building. It's a building kit typically that you can purchase. This building is actually going to be two separate structures that are going to be contained or combined by an interior courtyard that's actually fenced in. But as far as the two buildings, it's a building kit, so there'll be a total of two of those, and that total cost, again, $115,075 to be exact. Those are going to be engineered as well. It's not like you just buy a building kit. You're going to have engineered drawings to support exactly where the window placements are, the door placements, if there are any cupolas on top where you need some roof venting, things like that. It'll have the pitch, if it's, a 16-inch corner height and then an 18-inch center ridge line, all the slopes of the roof, things like that. All of that will be specified in any building kit that you're purchasing from either a steel kit provider or through your builder directly that works with a steel kit providing company. In addition to that, we lump the windows and the exterior doors into the rough structure. That line item is $25,168.50, and they were pricing out double hung vinyl windows and a couple of French sliding doors, which is a really nice addition to their build. In addition to that, and the final item for this category for rough structure is the metal kit installation. So you have this building kit, it gets delivered to the site. You still need to erect the building. It's just in a pile right now. You need a very skilled group of team members to erect the building. So you put the walls up, the roof structure goes up. You also have all of the hardware that needs to connect to that. You have all of the really significant column structures that's going to connect to the concrete slab foundation that you poured. All of that needs to be done. And if you can believe it or not, this building would be up and erected and fully what they call dried in. And dried in means if it's raining, no water is going to get in. So once the building is up, doors are in, windows are in, it's dried in. That would take less than 2 weeks. And you're done. Then you're moving on to the next category. So this category total is pretty significant. $208,000, almost $209,000. Let's have a serious question really quick. If you had that amount of money, would you feel comfortable just dropping it on the table and just paying cash for all of this? Or would you possibly consider all of the benefits that a professional lending institution that has decades of track record history with successful projects managing this for you, making sure that you have checks and balances, making sure that you have a structured payment system, making sure that this work is inspected to make sure it's done properly, to make sure that payments are going to be made on time so your builder stays happy and they still keep showing up to the job with a smile on their face, knowing that when they do the work and it's good work, that they're going to continue to get paid on time every time, and they're going to be able to finish this project on time and move on to the next job. All of this is very easily accommodated when you work with a lending source. If you have more interest in learning more about that, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to explain that to you and all of the benefits that can come from utilizing a lender for a build such as this. All right, halfway there, we are on the fourth category out of our 8. So this is going to be related to what I call MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. So all of the utility work. What we have is the plumbing breakdown. So the rough plumbing came in at $11,500. And when we talk about rough MEPs, rough plumbing, rough mechanical, rough electrical, that's all the guts in the house, all the ugly stuff that you don't really ever see when you have drywall up or nice final finishes that are painted, treated finishes. All of the rough work is done behind all of those walls because you don't want to look at that stuff. You have all the plumbing running up and down, you have all the electrical wires, and some of the mechanical, the air runs and the chases to and from. It's just kind of messy and nobody wants to look at that in their beautiful new home. So the first item, plumbing, as I said, $11,500. The next item would be the rough electrical. That came in at $15,500. You also have the HVAC that came in at $19,500. So for a build like this, not to get into all of the details, but the HVAC is pretty substantial. You have two separate structures as well, so you're going to be having a lot more than a typical home just because you have to treat two separate areas, literally two separate buildings. This is the rough work. We also have finished work a little bit further down, but as far as this total category, those three line items are always going to be the focus and involved in any project of any residential project. So the total for this category for MEPs, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, is $46,500. Now, keep in mind, we're talking about three different trades, three different skill sets. So typically you're going to have three different teams of people come in and do this type of work. So if you're considering a DIY project, or if you're considering, just building the shell and then having all these different trades come in, it's not to say that you can't do it, but you do have a lot of those built-in protections when you work with a professional lending institution that definitely makes it mandatory, not only for these builders to be approved through a mandatory approval process, but that general contractor, that's a turnkey general contractor, is the one point of contact that is responsible for every single person on that job site. Every single person includes the plumber, the electrician, the hardware company that supplies all of the equipment and all of the screws and the straps and everything to attach the plumbing to the walls, and also the HVAC company. So all of that is orchestrated together, and the financing oversees it with all of those protections in place through the lender that makes it mandatory to get that inspected, and nobody gets paid until everyone signs off to make sure that the work is done legitimately, professionally, and legally. Only then will that check be written and the work will be able to continue. So we're on to number 5 out of 8, rough finishes. This category is going to include things like insulation, interior doors, garage doors, even the fireplace. We can throw that in here as well. So I'm excited to talk about some of these details, especially the insulation. This is a big area for a lot of different opinions that I constantly am seeing online with what's the best insulation? What's the best type? Is spray foam better? Is, rolled insulation better? Everybody has an opinion, so definitely take time to speak with your builder and understand the benefits and the pros and cons of each. It's your home. It's going to be exactly what you want and whatever makes sense to both you logically as well as your pocketbook. This project specifically is using 4-inch insulation in the garage area. And then they're also using a different type of insulation for the home. They're going with spray foam in the house up to 2 inches in depth. So they balanced it out depending on the usage of the space. They're preferring spray foam to have it be a little bit more of a soundproof barrier. Not everything's soundproof, but it definitely helps with the sound. And then also it's not as thick, so you can spray everything in and know that that's going to last a very, very long time. The blanket insulation is very common for garage applications, and they went with a 4-inch, a little bit of a thinner material. You can go 6-inch, 8-inch, even thicker. So there are all of these different pros and cons. There's also going to be fire rating on things like that. So definitely this is an area that you would want to slow down, pump the brakes a little bit, and really get a good understanding and do your research on. The line item for this insulation is $16,500. An additional item in this group is drywall or plaster work. So as far as the rough finishing for the drywall, $13,500. As far as the finished work, we'll get into that in a little bit, but there are different thicknesses of drywall that you can purchase. Typically, you're going to go with a 5/8 sheetrock that can be installed everywhere in the home. A lot of times people even consider sheetrocking their garage as well, just so they can paint it and have it be really nice and smooth and clean instead of leaving everything open to the elements where you get cobwebs and moisture issues and things like that, just because it is exposed to the weather. So keep that in mind. If you want a nice, really clean, elevated looking shop, it could be nice to drywall some of those interior spaces. In addition to that, another line item on here are the interior doors. Now this is wide open. You can go with hollow core doors, solid wood doors. You can go with really basic, plain, smooth doors. You can go with very, very high-end doors that have insets and a lot of detail. There's a wide range. You can have standard height doors. You can go way high, with 8-foot high doors. It's wide open. You also have different widths of doors. A lot of people that might be going into, kind of their senior years or their, kind of retirement years, if this is their forever home, they might want to consider making the doors a little bit wider, just in case, if they have some mobility issues in the future, they can scoot through the door with a walker or even a wheelchair if need be. So all of these things can be really cost effective to just do it right the first time. That associated cost for the interior doors is $6,500. In addition to that, we have garage doors. Keeping in mind, we have 2 separate buildings here. The garage is actually just in one of the buildings, and the other building is an entire residential area with no parking. So the total for this is $4,500. And then the 2 more items in this category is related to a fireplace. So they have a 42-inch fireplace. That's a really nice width. It's just shy of 4 feet. So 3.5 feet, wood burning, which is a really nice addition, especially if you're going to be outside to hear the wood crackling and really get that true fire experience. $7,500 for that. So that's a pretty substantial fireplace, but this is going to be in the outdoor courtyard. You can see some of that in the renditions that we're going to share with you, and it's absolutely stunning area. And the additional item, the last item actually in this category, is for the gutters and the downspouts. A total of $4,500, $4,500 for that. Gutters and downspouts, it's not anything exciting to talk about, but there are a lot of different options with that. Different color variations, of course. You can have round downspouts, you can have rectangular downspouts, you can have 6-inch gutters, even bigger gutters. You can have copper gutters if you wanted to. Lots of options, but you want to pick something that is going to be aesthetically pleasing and go along with the rest of the design of your Barndo. But there are a ton of options, and a lot of people just think, it's a white gutter, right? No, there are a lot of really, really beautiful colors, and with building kits, you can typically get the gutters to be the exact same coloration. So that might be a really nice thing to consider on your project. So the magic total for this category for rough finishes is $53,000, 53000. So I am smiling on this one because this is what everybody gets excited about, because this is what everybody ends up looking at. Finishes, the 6th category out of the 8. We're almost in the home stretch, guys. Finish work. So this is everything that is pretty to look at. That's the easiest way to say it. Tile, flooring, all of the things that you can have a board that's put together and make sure everything looks cohesive and consistent. So we'll just go line by line here. So the finish lumber for everything that needs to be finished out. So as far as as an example, for your cabinets, if it needs some structure behind it, typically cabinets can be just attached directly to interior walls. However, if you have, as an example, the cabinet above the refrigerator, usually that's brought forward so you can access it. It's not, all the way at the back of the wall and you have to get on a ladder to get to it. You need to build out some structure behind that so the cabinet can be forward facing and brought all the way out to the front. So simple labor things like that. There's more to it than that, but basic labor for lumber finish work is $8,500. This is a big house. It's about 4,000 square feet. So that's definitely adding up, but that's a significant line item. As far as the materials for that work to be done, what we just spoke about was labor related. The materials are actually $9,840. So those two are related, but they're separate on the breakout here. As far as the electrical work, labor is $7,500. And The fixtures that are related to that labor for electrical is $6,000. Now, that is wide open, you guys. You know that you can go to Home Depot and get what they call like a boob light. It's kind of a funny term in the industry, but it's just the boring basic light that you can get a pack of 50 for, like $100. You can get those, and that's fine. It'll light up your room, but it's very, very builder grade. Super cheap. It works good enough. Now, you can go high-end, custom, really crazy light fixtures that can be thousands of dollars each, if not into the 10,000s or even more, for the beautiful chandelier that you might want over your gorgeous dining room table, things like that. So that number can change drastically depending on your budget. And you can always do kind of entry-level stuff, builder grade now. Maybe have the same builder come back and change out the light fixtures after you've lived there for a little bit. Or maybe you have some additional, Christmas money that you want to update the light in the master bedroom to a really pretty fixture that you can enjoy when you're going to bed at night. So keep that in mind. You don't have to go high end on everything, but the lighting fixtures really do make a huge difference. And there's different, brightnesses and things like that, different amounts of light that each fixture puts out. Sometimes you want really dim lighting. I don't want to forget to mention either dimmer switches. That's all the rage. It has been for years, but that's a really nice, very cheap upgrade to just a toggle switch for on and off. If you have a toggle switch with a dimmer, it really makes it nice to be able to soften that light. Maybe if you want to watch a movie or have a really nice, beautiful candlelit dinner with your hun some night and not have this bright white light overhead. So moving on, plumbing fixtures. The labor related to the plumbing on this project is $4,500, and the actual plumbing fixtures, $5,000 even. Again, very similar to the lighting fixtures, plumbing is going to be everything like faucets, your shower head. Do you want a rain shower? Do you want body jets coming at you when you're in the shower that's big enough to drive a car through? Do you want waterfall faucet in your bathtub? Or do you want something very simple? Maybe you have a Jack and Jill kids bedroom where you just want something that might be fun. Maybe it lights up when it gets hot and it turns a little bit more red. Maybe it's blue when it's cold. It's an amazing option, array of assortment that you can pick from for any kind of plumbing fixture. They're not boring anymore. They actually have some really, really exciting, beautiful fixtures that can change the entire look of a room. Next on here, hardware finish. So $3,500 for hardware. That's not that bad. This is a really good size home project, but hardware finish is everything from like the pulls on your cabinet doors, the door latches on all of your walk-through doors. You can go with just a whole huge box of the same thing for your entire home. Some things are going to be dummy handles where it's just a pantry where it's just you want to open the door and close it. You don't need it to lock. Some are going to have lock functions. You might want to go high end and have like a smart home. You might want something with a keypad for electronic entry, or you might want something that it's a wireless option where you can have someone come over to maybe house sit and you just go ahead and give them the code, or you can program it in wirelessly and open the door for them. You guys, it's wide open. So that total, $3,500. They're probably going pretty basic on that because that can add up very quickly. As far as cabinets, that's the next line item. This is actually pretty reasonable, $17,000 for cabinets. This is another category that can go crazy high. So they're going with 36-inch uppers, a couple of sprinkled 42-inch upper cabinets, very basic white, and they're going with the two-tone. So they're going to have different color uppers and different color lowers. Sometimes, it's a little trendy and other people might think it's really, really cool. So when I say 36 and 42-inch uppers, that can be a height difference. That can be, maybe they have really, really high ceilings and they just want to alternate it a little bit so it's not all the same height on top and it's all level. You might want to adjust those so there's a little bit more visual interest there. Or they might want some extra storage way up high for holiday dishes or platters or things, fine china that they don't use except maybe once or twice a year at Christmas, but they don't want that down lower where they have their everyday dishes, things like that. So $17,000 for cabinets. Next off, we have flooring, $6,500. They are going with probably one of my favorite things, concrete floors, stained concrete. No tile, no wood floors on top of it, no, vinyl laminate flooring, just concrete. And you can finish it so smoothly that it's like butter on top. You can acid stain those and you can etch it. You can use color stains to go with the rest of the aesthetics in your home and then seal that. You can make it high gloss. You can make it like a matte finish, almost like kind of a dulled look, but a little bit of sheen to it. And it's so easy to clean up. You don't have to worry about ever spilling anything on it. It's protected. And it's great, especially if you have kids or dogs. You don't have to worry about any of the little nails or anything scratching it up. Stained concrete, absolutely stunning. So they're going to, with the flooring, we do have some shower tile, and that is related to, you have the flooring tile, but you also have the next line item of ceramic tile. So the line item by itself, ceramic tile, is going to be what you see typically on a backsplash. In the kitchen, you have tile work in the shower, going from the floor up to the ceiling. So they are going typically with a subway tile in the master bath and shower area. That line item total is $7,250. Millwork is on this list as well, and we just have about 5 more things to talk about in this category. Vanity cabinets, it looks like they're doing some custom cabinets, so it might be either an odd dimension in the bathroom that they're using, so something that's just bought off the shelf, like at Home Depot or something like that, might leave a lot of extra space, so it looks like they're paying a little bit extra for some millwork to be done, which would be a custom base, and then you can just do countertop on your own, pick out the sink, and then of course the fixture hardware. Marble or granite. They're going with a granite top for the kitchen as far as the island and the countertops. The total for this is actually not that bad for a house this size, $15,850. This is another wide open category. So granite is very common. A lot of people use it. Some people go with concrete countertops where you actually build forms and you pour concrete and you smooth it out. Some people go with high-end quartz. Some people backlight their countertops where they literally have lighting that glows through this stunning material that lights up at night. So there are all of these options that are absolutely incredible, but they're going with granite, so $15,850 for that. I'm going to mention this, and this is an option that everyone can have. Appliances are going to go in this category as well, but the customer is actually going to provide their own appliances, so there's no cost associated with the financing amount that they're doing. However, there is an out-of-pocket cost for those appliances. Who knows? Maybe they got a great deal. Maybe they know somebody who works at an appliance store and they were able to get a steal of a deal on the refrigerator, the stove, the microwave, the dishwasher, or maybe they did some savvy shopping online and got some killer deals on eBay or Craigslist, something like that. So there's no cost associated, but keep that line item open on your spreadsheet so you don't forget about it. So the final item in here is just the interior painting. They have $19,500 for interior paint. They have a note that the customer will choose the wall color. Sometimes it's just easy to just paint everything the same color. You have some cohesiveness, the aesthetic is the same throughout the home. But let's say you have a little boy and a little girl. You might want the boy's room to be totally different than the girl's room. You might have an office that you want to really elevate where you work from home a lot and you don't want to look at the same color that's everywhere else in the house. You might want an accent wall or something like that. So the total for that, $19,500. So that rounds out a lot of different line items for this category, and we'll come up with total for you in just a minute. So this category can add up really quickly, and it can be very, very minimal. This total of all the numbers that we just talked about is $114,990, so just shy of $115,000. Now, keep in mind, this has a lot of variation, a lot of possible variation. You also have a lot of concern about if you let someone else build your home and then pick your fixtures for you, they might end up picking out something that you absolutely hate. So you've got to work with your builder and figure out where that balance is. They might want to do all of the work and the labor and give you an allowance for the fixtures where you can go out and just do whatever you need to do, but it can get a little bit dicey, especially if you have things that people buy and then they don't work with what you bought and then you start mixing things together. So just be really careful about that. If you're wanting to consider a do-it-yourself project and not work with a turnkey general contractor that's approved with the lenders that we work with, then it can get a little bit challenging. It can be done, but you just have to be really on your game and pump the brakes when it comes to this category because things can get really messy really quickly. You might have restocking fees if you buy something that you can't use and you're stuck with it. You might buy something that seems like a really, really good bargain, but the electrical is not going to work with how you have your house already wired. It can turn into a pretty big snowball pretty quickly. So just be mindful of that. So again, just to reiterate, $114,990 for this category total. All right, category 7 out of 8, general conditions. This is kind of a catch-all bin for things that don't quite fit into some of the other categories specifically, but we definitely need to make sure that we are aware of them and we have a line item for them. The first item is the architect/engineer. Let's, as an example, if you're building in Florida, hands down, you have to get your plans reviewed by an engineer and stamped by that engineer. All of the storms and the wind ratings and the shearing and all of the pressure, your building has to be engineered to make sure that it can withstand some of those effects of storms and things like that. As far as this project, it is a metal building, so typically that's going to be engineered as well. There's a cost associated for this project of $6,500 for that. In addition to that, we have temporary facilities. This cost of $7,500 is related to a temporary electrical post. So what that is when you're building, you have your site work going on, the entire crew still needs access to power, to run their machines, to recharge all of their tools, to have lighting, when they are building things. So there's a temporary electrical post. There's a cost associated with that, and you have to work with a county to make sure that you have all that lined up, as well as the electrician that the builder is working with to make sure that they set that up properly. You also have things that are not that fun to talk about, like porta potties that you have to have serviced every week to make sure that it's sanitary and pleasant for people to at least utilize that on site until you have your own bathroom that you can use when you're moving into the house. So there's a cost associated with that line item for the temporary facilities of $7,500. The other item on here, and the final line item in the general conditions category, is just listed as overhead. And it sounds like just, overhead, just like a cushion, but it's actually, they mean the outside porch area, interior trim, labor and materials, the cupolas, metal awnings, the lights. It's kind of a big general, just kind of catch-all bin of 25 grand, which is pretty significant. But again, you have multiple cupolas, you have a lot of overhangs, 2 separate buildings, lots of outdoor porch areas. So $25,000 is pretty substantial, but out of the entire budget total, it's a pretty small fraction. So total for this category, $39,000. General conditions, 39000. Okay, you're still with me. We are on category 8 of 8. This is called specialties, landscaping/driveway. We really just have 2 items in here that are related to the specialty of the fireplace mantle. So they are going with something pretty delicious. They are using probably a rustic old timber. The line item for this is $6,500, which is pretty substantial. A mantle typically does not cost that much. I think they're going with probably a very, very custom, unique one-off mantle, which I can't wait to see the pictures of that one. In addition to that, we have the driveway. So as I mentioned, this is an 8-acre property, so it's a little bit of a distance to get back. They wanted some privacy, so they weren't right off of the street, so you didn't have that visual appearance when you're just driving by on the road to get to their house. So it's tucked back in the trees, and it's a little bit of a curvy driveway to get back to the home. So that is a substantial cost of $14,000 for the driveway. You also have the driveway prep, all of the labor associated with that. You have gravel as the base, and then they're going with a paved driveway with a blacktop driveway on top of that. So $14,000 total for that line item. Final total for this category, $20,500. Okay, we came to the end of this. Guess how much? $600,000. And for 600 grand, it sounds like a lot of money. It's coming in at a great price per square foot, $151.89. Less than $152 a square foot, which, that's pretty good compared to rates that I'm seeing these days with different builders. Different states are going to vary. $151 a square foot. You are getting, let's go recap over all of this, 3,950 beautiful square feet of living space in 2 separate buildings, 3 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, You have a separate in-law suite with a full bath. You have a gable courtyard entry, an area in between the two buildings that can be a community area for everyone to share together as a family. A vaulted great room, absolutely stunning. You have a butler's pantry, which is fantastic. An outdoor kitchen area, an outdoor fireplace. Keep in mind that $6,500 mantle that I talked about. You also have a flex space where they're probably going to let their kids enjoy just making a mess and not worrying about it. You also have a cool pass-through window and a bar that can let you access the outdoor courtyard from the kitchen. And you have an office because they do want to work from home. $600,000, $150 a square foot on average. Amazing, amazing project. Can't wait to give you updates along the way. You've made it all the way to the end of this video. You're still here. $600,000 later, we've gone through every single line item. What do you say? Does this sound like something that you would enjoy considering to do someday? Is it possibly a little overwhelming still on how you're going to put all of these moving pieces together in addition to financing? Reach out to us. This is our specialty, especially when it comes to barndominiums. A lot of lenders do not finance barndominiums. We have a niche market that we fully specialize in. So let us know if we can help you with that. If you're struggling to find architectural plans for your barndominium, we have connections. If you need help working with a real estate agent to source the land, this perfect parcel of property where you want to build your forever home or just a home, we have a huge network of real estate agents across the nation, but specifically in the states where we're licensed as well, to help you find that perfect property. And of course, builders. That's always one of those areas where people need help. They've never built a house before. They don't know how to find builders. We have an ever-growing network of builders that we have access to that expect to offer a level of service equal, if not better, than what some of the builders are that you might have already contacted yourself. These are already approved builders that went through a mandatory approval process with the lenders that we work with, so they are ready to work with you. We offer referrals constantly from the 5 states where we're currently licensed. If that sounds of interest to you, let us help walk along that journey with you and help guide you to a very successful project, a streamlined closing experience, and a lender's built-in protections that will help you get from A to Z without hassle, without worrying about if your builder is going to show up or not, without worrying about if they're going to get paid or not. Lenders have brilliantly put together this financing package to accommodate the purchase of the land, the cost of construction, and that incredibly important portion that it converts into that long-term mortgage once everything is built. You still have to pay your mortgage. All of that is done in one closing, saving you time, hassle, and expense. Feel free to look up Excel Mortgage online. We're readily available. We're all over Facebook. And I'm so glad that you took the time to learn about this specific project that is going to be an absolute home run here in Georgia. Best luck with your project.